The Chicago Cubs of 2025 are participants in MLB's postseason playground tournament for the first time in 5 years. What does this mean for the North Siders going forward? We'll give you our predictions coming up. On the South side, I guess the 100 loss season watch is back on. The White Sox get swept by the Baltimore Orioles. They'll host the San Diego Padres on the South side for the last series at home for 2025. In college football, will Illinois shine at the bright lights at Indiana, or will they fade into the sunset? And will Notre Dame get back on track with their first win of the year? We'll give you our predictions coming up. Then, and we'll give our Bears Cowboys preview with Mike Doocy from Fox 4 in Dallas. Is the return of our girl, Miss Christine the Queen Manika, with our Week 3 NFL picks and more. All that, a whole lot more on the hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports, which starts right now. Welcome to another hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown over here. I am Sidney Brown. You better know that it's me. Happy Friday, folks. Friday blues here. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Subscribe. KXRB, PODCASCS. We're all located on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give more me a follow at WARMIA and all social media platforms. And thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you better hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll, indoor, do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you Dumbo's Billy Beer Boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game that's checking us out right now. That's LIVE Live Entertainment game that's checking us out right now on our Sports Zone YouTube and also on that Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto, where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
We invite you with some of the best here on Second City Sports. We'll have legendary Fox 4 sports anchor and host Mike Doocy join us to talk Cowboys, Bears, as well as the busy sports scene in Dallas. This is a very busy this time of year down there in the Big D and in the Fort Worth area. Also, our girl Christine Manika from KXRB joins us for our NFL Week 3 pick'ems. In addition, to our Football Friday, we've got a little bit of sports media news as there was a big departure on ESPN. We'll talk about that. And also, you got the playoffs coming up as well for the WNBA. It's down to their Final Four. And also, of course, we'll also have the MLB as it's getting its playoff chase. It's getting a little bit close in one division where we didn't think it would be. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit as, particularly the playoff chase. The Cubs clinched their first playoff berth since 2020, which is the COVID year. But then if you wanted to go full, the full, season, however you want to, it's been since 2018. They actually took care of business and clinched a playoff berth. And unfortunately, they went 2 out of 3 in St. Louis. They clinched in St. Louis. Not in St. Louis, my bad. In Pittsburgh, I should say. Unfortunately, they partied a little too much yesterday as Hunter Green, finally decides to show up. He had a one hitter. He was still throwing 100 plus miles an hour in the ninth inning. So go figure with that. Like I said, the Cubs might have partied a little bit too hard in Pittsburgh after clinching on Wednesday. But that's all right. But again, if you want to have a shot at the division, they still got a shot to have to clinch that number one seed in the wild card, but they got to win their series. But even still, Sid, what do you think about the Cubs clinching in Pittsburgh? And and we talked about it right before we started recording here that you said you may have, look, I told you, Sid, we've talked about for the last couple of weeks that I wanted Kate Horton, and he proved to you why earlier this week, but I wanted to be the game one starter for the playoffs for the Cubs. So what about you?
Yeah, he was very impressive. Outdueled Paul Skeens, who's had the Cubs number throughout his short 2+ year career with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Kate Horner outdueled him, and of course it helps out when you have offense that helps you out, and that's with any starting pitchers, and that's what happened with Kate Horton this past Tuesday. But the Cubs, considering the circumstances we talked about all year, with the early struggles of Craig Counsell trying to find guys to get his 6 to 9 outs through the 7th inning and on, through the injuries of Kyle Tucker and the evolution of Pico Armstrong, due to injuries of Shota Imanaga, and of course of Justin Steele as well. There are all these injuries. Of course, this is an incredible feat for the Chicago Cubs. Of course, the work is not done yet, as you mentioned. The remaining games for the left of the season until next weekend are very important in terms of seeding. But the obstacles that the Cubs had to overcome, this is a great accomplishment, but the work is still not yet completed.
He's 8-1 over his last 11 starts since the All-Star break. He's out just 6 runs total in that span. And in the modern era, the only other pitcher to have 8+ wins and 6 or fewer runs allowed over an 11-start span in a single season, you go all the way back to Bob Gibson, all the way back in 1968. So that's pretty impressive company he joins there. And also, he's also one of the favorites for National League Rookie of the Year. So you got to think, I don't know if he's the odds-on favorite, but he should definitely be a finalist when that comes down the pike. But yeah, I think he's definitely making a case to be a game one starter. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what Craig Counsell does. I mean, does he go with the more experience? You got Matt Boyd, another a veteran, and you got Shota Imanaga, but he's been kind of up and down since coming back from his own injury. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what Craig Counsell does. I think for matchup purposes, if it does end up being the Padres, we'll talk about the Padres after the break. And, they're kind of in, I don't want to say free fall, but they kind of are. And it's going to be kind of like all this sort of sets up here, because I know that it'll probably end up being the Padres. I think, unless something crazy happens. But I think the Cubs are in a really good spot, I think, because we know the Padres can be very streaky at times. So I think it's really going to come down to, I guess, look, sometimes it's luck, sometimes, especially in a best of 3 format like this. And you never know. We'll see.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago on the hashtag Football Friday edition. Say LaKeena here with you, talking Cubs and White Sox baseball. Just to wrap up on the Cubs, we were talking about this before we went on live, and I said this about last night's game. Colin Ray was very impressive himself with the 11 strikeouts and no walks through 7 innings on his own. I think he solidified himself. He probably did a long time ago, but I think with that performance last night, if you're Craig Counsell, he's your top middle relief guy, because you usually need 2 strong starters, sometimes 3 strong starting pitchers, and everybody else has been in the rotation. Your bottom feeders in the rotation, whoever's the best out of those will be relegated to the bullpen. I think Colin Ray is your main guy as far as middle relief, your 5th, 6th, or perhaps 7th innings. He could pitch you 2 or 3 innings there. Ben Brown, I'm sorry, I don't think he deserves to be on the playoff roster. Now, your bullpen is very interesting. Whatever happened to Daniel Palencia? I know he got hurt about a week ago. Will he be back in time for the playoffs? If not, you have some options there at closer. Is it Brad Keller? Is it Andrew Kittredge? So will it be closer by committee? Because you know as well as I do, LaKeena, closer by committees usually don't work. So Craig Counsell, I believe, has another interesting decision to make there if Palencia is not back before the season is over. And we also talked about this too the other day. Kyle Tucker, I know he went down to Tampa for a second opinion on his calf. I assume I don't know what's the latest news on that since we talked the other day, but I assume that his regular season is over because you have a little bit over a week to go. But if he's not back for the playoffs, assuming you get past the wild card round, I think this Cubs team is in trouble.
And I think they really need to figure out. It's going to be kind of interesting though with the bullpen too, because yeah, the offense can do what they can, but in the playoffs, it's really about the pitching, and it's going to be interesting if the Cubs can get that bullpen going because of the consistency of it. Because if not, if one bad bullpen game could definitely throw off an entire series for a team. We've seen that happen, especially in recent years. So you kind of have to, hopefully if you're a Cubs fan, they can figure the bullpen out and get back to the bullpen we saw after the break where they weren't allowing a lot of runs. So hopefully they can get that together here before they start the playoffs in a couple of weeks. Now going to the White Sox, just when you thought that maybe they would avoid losing 100 games, it looks like we're already on 100 loss watch again. They've lost 6 in a row. They get swept by the Orioles. They play the Padres to wrap up their home schedule this weekend. And Sid, do you see them perhaps maybe? I don't know. You think they're going to be able to avoid it? Maybe win one of these games?
I think they can win one of these games against the Padres. I know looking at their home records, yes, it's technically below 500, but the Sox has actually played decent at home this year, despite being swept by Baltimore earlier this week. I know former White Sox pitcher Dylan Cease will get the start tonight opposite Davis Martin. So I think the tone will be set as the series begins tonight. But for the White Sox, it's all about finishing strong, being consistent, and setting the season off on a positive note going into next year. You look at the players like Holster Montgomery, Miguel Vargas, Chase Mydrop, and Dominic Fletcher and others. Who's going to be on this team next year going forward, and to see if they can be consistent going into the offseason with a good feeling and come back next year with that confidence for them to improve and take the next step.
All right, your pitching matchups real quick for the White Sox. Like you said, Dylan Cease makes his return to G-rate as you face Davis Martin, Gomez against Yu Darvish, and Sean Burke versus King. And going back to that Cubs series against Cincy, hopefully if you're the Cubs, you want to try to win at least these. You want to try to win all the rest of these 3 games. Okay, you're probably too hard. Going into Pittsburgh, you probably, you just couldn't get it going. And Hunter Green decides he wants to show up. So, okay. But you got to win these next 3 to at least give you an outside shot of perhaps maybe winning the division still, like we've been saying. But we'll see. Now, again, it'll be Shota versus Ladola, and it'll be Assad versus Latrell. That's tomorrow. And you got James Atayam versus Abbott. So, interesting. No reason why the Cubs can't win at least 2 of these. I mean, if they can win these next 3, it'd be even better. But you got to win 2 in order to give yourself a little bit of a puncher's chance of perhaps maybe winning the division at the very least, or at least keeping that top spot in the wild card.
Pay attention to that start on Sunday with James Taillon. Here's why. I believe this will be his 3rd start since coming back from the hamstring injury. We'll see. Let's see how well he pitches. Will Craig Counsell let him pitch into the 6th and 7th inning, or will they have a pitch count limit for him? It depends on how the game goes. If he pitches 5 or 6 innings, I think that's going to give you a good sign going into the playoffs. If he doesn't pitch well, or heaven forbid he exits the game with another injury, that's going to be another problem that Craig Counsell and the Cubs cannot ill afford to have right now. So pay attention to the start with Taillon on Sunday.
We're taking a rush to the quick break. We'll talk the rest of Major League Baseball coming up next. Some more clinchers, and it's getting a little tight in one division where we thought it was all but over. Looks like one team's coming up like, oh dear, yes, making things interesting. And we'll also talk some college football as Illinois and Indiana. Yes, no, it's not college hoop season yet, but Illinois and Indiana do lead the top matchup for week 4 of college football. LaKeena McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sportsville Chicago. Baseball and college football talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago. And on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to the Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. She's right there. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my McGee on the Twitter, X, and Killskin IG.
As we continue the baseball talk game preview week 4 of college football as well for this segment, if you have any questions or comments regarding those subjects, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Get the up of the screen for you.
Now, one division where we all thought that it was basically all but over with, well, not so fast. Detroit, which has lost 7 of their last 10, including getting swept by the Guardians, who have now won 7 in a row, and I think 12 of their last 15 or something like that. Well, they swept the Tigers. They got them, they kept themselves in. And now, even though Therese Skubal did have a solid start, but the Tigers unfortunately ended up sweeping. So Sid, what's going on here?
Here's another statistic to consider. The Detroit Tigers are 1-5 against Cleveland at Comerica Park this year. I know that if you're AJ Hinch, you're wiping your forehead saying, yeah, we got those guys out of our system. We didn't win one game. We got swept. But I watched some of the game yesterday, and Tariq Schoolboy did do a heck of a job. But that type of your starters in your bullpen to basically pitch damn near perfect. Bend do not break. That strategy is going to backfire, and that's what happened with the Tigers uh, with that series against Cleveland this week. On the flip side for Cleveland, we talked about their situations about Shane Bieber now being traded at the trade deadline. Emmanuel Clase, he's not there due to other reasons, but the Guardians rather they've been doing it with the solid bullpen. Their starting pitching has been good enough in timely hitting. So Jose Ramirez and some of the other guys have been Mazzarato has been coming around. So the Cleveland's been getting done by a great pitch in both their starters and relievers and timely hitting. That's how you win in the playoffs. Not on their side, but they're playing some hot baseball right now.
Yeah, I think like Gavin was like 3-0 in his last 3 starts. That was Stephen Kwan and Bo Naylor. They've been hitting the ball well for the Guardians. Can they do it? It might be too big of a hole, but you never know. So again, I know Detroit fans are kind of like on pins and needles, so we'll see what happens there. Now in the AL West, it's now tied between Houston and Seattle. Seattle did win 2 out of 3 against the Royals, and Cal Raleigh, number 53 home runs for him. So it's gonna be kind of interesting to see what those two kind of like, because they don't play each other anymore this year. So it's really there's gonna be a lot of scoreboard watching between between the M's and the Astros here. As far as the Astros, they did take care of business and they finished out the race. I guess you could say bye to their playoff chances, because we had thought that maybe they could get back in it, but no. Jose Altuve's 2-run home run kind of like said see ya to the Rangers playoff chances.
Yeah, take a look at the ALS race. The Seattle, like you said, they basically I think they knocked Kansas City out of the playoff race. To be honest with you, but like you mentioned, winning 2 out of 3 there. Seattle has been known for their pitching for a while. They've been getting great starting pitching all year. In that series against the Royals was no different. On the flip side, we talked about it in our last show on Monday, and we'll talk about it with our guest Mike Doocy coming up at the top of next hour. The Rangers and the Astros, we said that was an elimination series, and the Rangers they ran out of time and they couldn't come up with the big hits in that series against the Astros. So the Astros, as we said all year, they're not the same team that they've been known for because of the names have changed. But they're Joe Estrada, you can give him credit for keeping the new young core afloat as far as being atop the AL West. You still have Cam Smith, Hunter Brown, who I believe is a sneaky candidate for AL Cy Young, and Christian Walker, who's been struggling this year. Their free agent pickup from last offseason. So, but they found a way to be competitive to win ball games. And as we said since the All-Star break, I still believe that the Seattle the AOS race between Seattle and Houston is going to come down to the final day. And I don't see what's going to change my mind about that anytime soon.
Well, remember, they face each other this weekend starting tonight. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But like I said, we'll talk more about that when we do the scheduling. The Blue Jays, they didn't have a good week this week. Their bats have been quiet. They lose. They split their series against the Rays, and their magic number is still 2 to clinch a playoff berth. But the Yankees are surging too. Max Fried had 12 strikeouts yesterday as the Yankees complete. They win their first game against Baltimore, and it's going to be kind of interesting. Can the Yankees catch the Blue Jays?
I don't think they will, but I think they'll hang on to that top wildcard spot. Referring to the Yankees, you mentioned about Max Fried, 13 strikeouts, a career high in 7 innings pitched. As we talked about before, the Yankees, they big boppers stay healthy like Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. that gives the Yankees their best chance to win. But the Yankees will have to turn around their starting pitcher. Max Fried showed why he was the top guy that the Yankees signed to that free agent contract last off season. And previously, the Yankees having a good road trip thus far because they took care of the Twins, winning 2 out of 3 there in the Twin Cities earlier this week. So by the end of this road trip, we're going to find out what the Yankees are all about. Will they take over Toronto? Me personally, I don't think so. But the Yankees are trying to patch things up before make a potential long run back in the playoffs, back for the playoffs this year.
Yeah, Boston's making it. Well, meanwhile, Boston's making it not a good time to slump. They lose 2-3 to the A's, and now you got the surging Guardians, only 1.5 back at that last wild card spot. And what do you think? Can the Red Sox hang on?
If they keep losing, like you said, they're going to give Cleveland all the momentum in the world. Cleveland has their own momentum, but if the Red Sox keep losing, especially to teams that are sub 500, it's definitely a choke job. I don't think Alex Cora or the rest of the Red Sox Nation will not. They're not going to be happy. So as long as the Red Sox continue to get back on track with their starting pitching and be more consistent on offense, I think they'll be okay. But losing 2 out of 3 at home to the Oakland A's of Sacramento, as we call them on this show, that was not good. That was not good. And Brian Bello, who started for Boston yesterday, he's been actually impressive in the second half, but he ran into a buzzsaw yesterday in athletics. Shout out to my guy Brent Brooker, hitting 25 plus more home runs for a second consecutive year.
Nicely done by him. Now going to the National League real quick. The Phillies, even though yes they pushed the AL East, the NL East I should say, but they're in the driver's seat. Their magic number is 4 to clinch that number 1 seed and get that bye. That way they can chill for a few days while the other National Leaguers get that. But they did win 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, so that should give them a little bit of momentum. They stay out west and play the D-bats. So what do you think of the Phillies' chance of getting that number 1 seed?
Yeah, they'll get the number 1 seed, and manager Robbie Thompson will have sometime next week if he manages his right to get his playoff rotation. I'm talking about starting rotation together. We all know that Zach Wheeler is out for the year, but he could get his rotation together and get some guys some much needed rest, like your Bryce Harper's or anybody else who's having knick-knack injuries. You can give them some rest sometime next week to heal up. And like you said, not playing the wild card round. I think this is going to benefit them. So Robbie Thompson is going to have a chance to play this right and get some guys that are nicked up some rest going into the last week of the season.
Brewers sweep the Angels. Their magic number to clinch the NL Central is 5. So we'll see what happens there. Now going to the West for a second. Now the Dodgers, they like I said, they lost 2 out of 3 to the Phillies, but they did win their opener against the Giants. If they beat the Giants, their magic number is 1 to clinch a playoff spot, so they can win and clinch a playoff berth tonight. We'll see if they can do that. While the Padres, meanwhile, I don't know. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Mets. I think the Mets needed that to keep their albeit pretty still open outside shot of going into the playoffs and the wild card spot. They're still up 2 on Cincy, but the Padres, it's going to be kind of interesting. But again, it looks like the Dodgers might end up getting that West Division again.
Couple of things on the Dodgers quickly. One, congratulations to Clayton Kershaw. He officially announced that he's going to retire after this year. He'll make his final regular season start at Dodger Stadium tonight against the San Francisco Giants. That's on Apple TV Plus at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Number 2, LaKeena. He had Ohtani the other night against the Philadelphia Phillies. I believe that was the Tuesday game. He pitched 5 innings of no hit ball, and Dave Roberts decided to pull him out. A lot of Dodgers fans were upset. Did you think that was the right move for manager Dave Roberts to do that, or you should let Ohtani go for at least another inning or 2?
I think if you're going to be using Ohtani a lot during the playoffs on the pitching side, I think you may have to rest him as much as you can. So I don't mind that. I know people were pissed. I know I saw the. I heard LA radio. For the Dodgers were not happy that he did that. But again, I think he did that just to kind of see if he can save his energy, because if they are going to be using him as a pitcher a lot, in the playoffs, I think you're going to have to rest him as much as you can. So I think he did the right. I think Roberts did the right thing there. Now going back to Kershaw for 1 second. 2 World Series titles for the Dodgers, 3 Cy Young Awards, an MVP, 11-time All-Star, 33,000 strikeout club, and a 2011 Triple Crown winner. Do you think he's a Hall of Famer? Talk about Kershaw.
Yes.
I agree. Now, will he be a first ballot? Maybe, but you know how MLB, the baseball voters are. So whatever. But yeah,
we got a lot of younger voters in there now, including our guy Eugene McIntosh from It's the Bigs. I think this is the year he registers. We have to ask him next time we bring him on. But you got a lot of younger voters in there now, so some things may start to change over the next few years. So you never know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you never know. Like I said, by the time by the time his eligibility, the first year of eligibility is up, you gotta think maybe a lot of it will change. He might get in first ballot, but we'll see what happens there. Now, real quick, this the MLB schedule. We talked about the Cubs, the first game of the second game of that series. Hopefully, they can get back on track. And Cincy, that'll be on MLB Network. Atlanta versus Detroit. Detroit will try to get back on track. I got the A's and Pittsburgh. The Yankees against the Orioles. They continue their series. Washington. The Mets need to hang on to that last wild card spot. Boston and Tampa, same thing with
They
Boston.
need a sweep.
Yes, no, nothing less. San Diego, of course, they faced the White Sox tonight in their last home series. Let's talk about the White Sox. You got the Toronto and Kansas City. Toronto, their match number is 2 to clinch the AL East. Clinch the playoff spot. But yeah, they get to face Kansas City. That's Thursday. It's going to be on Apple TV Plus.
All right, ratio schedule for tonight for the weekend looks like this. The Marlins will face the Texas Rangers. The Rangers barely trying to hang on to postseason eligibility. Cleveland will visit Minnesota. LaKeena's Mariners will travel to Houston to take on the Astros. This will be a tremendous series that your show will be watching. Now, for this could, I'm sure it will decide the AL. And the Dodgers will do battle as they continue their 4-game weekend series from Dodgers Stadium. As I mentioned earlier, you can see the second game of that series tonight on Apple TV Plus at 9:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Clayton Kershaw will make his final regular season start at Dodgers Stadium.
And your television schedule, Atlanta and Detroit will be on MLB Network tomorrow. Washington and the Mets will be on MLB Network tomorrow as well. The Yankees and the Orioles, the third game of that series will be on MLB tomorrow. The Cubs and the Reds, the last game of that series on Sunday will be on MLB Network. And your Sunday night baseball game of the week. And you're going to give a little bit of love to the AL West. You got Seattle and Houston. That'll be on ESPN. And that's your schedule for this weekend in MLB. Sid, I think we might have Sid might froze up here. Listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena McGee, Cindy Brown with you as we talk.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone.
You gotta love live TV, folks. How the lagging of the Wi-Fi. We'll talk some college football.
Yes.
Yeah. The little college football in week 4 as we're going to week 4. Some interesting matchups this weekend, of course. Just to clean things up. Rice beat Charlotte 28-17. Tonight's matchups, you got Oklahoma State hosting Tulsa on ESPN. And Iowa Rutgers, they start Big Ten play. That's going to be the 7 o'clock game on Fox. Your big noon Saturday game will be coming from Salt Lake City as the Utah Utes. They host Texas Tech in the top 20 showdown at 11 a.m. on Fox.
We will jump ahead a little bit to bring it back locally. We'll start out with number 9, Illinois Defiant Illini. They'll travel to Bloomington, Indiana, to face the number 19 ranked the Indiana Hoosiers. We know about the success about the Hoosiers coming out of nowhere, going into the college football playoff last year before losing to Notre Dame in Irish Stadium. Both teams coming in at 3-0. Indiana's favored by 6.5. As we said last week, LaKeena, Illinois shouldn't be looking ahead to toward this game. They had a dominating performance last week at home. This game, I think, is going to set the tone for what happens the rest of the year. I know Indiana were the Hunters last year. Now they're the Hunted. The final line, they're the Hunters this year. Some people said they're the Hunted because they're about to get off the bus running. Because if they do, and it takes the pressure off of Luke Altmaier, who's been playing great to start the year, if the final line can take control of the line of scrimmage and run the ball effectively, that makes Luke Altmaier's job that much easier on offense.
Can't turn the ball over either. It's going to be a big test for that Indiana defense, which hasn't really been tested much earlier this season. They had, I don't want to say they kind of like had some rocking chair games, especially those last couple. But Fernando Mendoza, probably one of the, probably a great quarterback you probably have never heard of. 708 passing yards and 9 TDs. Kalen Black has had 217 rushing yards for the Hoosiers this year. And also, Omar Cooper Jr. had just under 300 receiving yards. So I think, look, this is going to be, I know Kristen Gimmy's probably going to want to test his guys and make sure this is going to be the first big test. And I'm sure they're going to be hearing it all week about, well, you guys are just kind of slept walk through. So this is going to be the first big test for them. So it'll be interesting to see, what they do against an Illinois squad. And that's going to be interesting, though. But, yeah, I think it's going to be, it's going to be on NBC and also streaming on Peacock. So this is going to be a prime time game. So it'll be interesting to see how both these teams do in the spotlight there on down there in Bloomington.
I think both teams will embrace being on national TV well because most of the country will be watching this game. I think Illinois has been primed for this for the last couple of years. Remember, around this time they were on NBC last year against Penn State. And Penn State, I know, well, they beat the Illini by 2 touchdowns. Remember, the Illini faltered in that second half. They were right there with Penn State. So I think Illinois is made for this pressure. I think it's going to be much closer than what people think. Ken Davis would say, I'm putting them on the table. I think the line that win by field goal.
Whether it could be a factor here, it is supposed to rain down there in Bloomington on and off, so it could be a running type of thing. So we'll just see how both these teams do in those conditions. Going to the rest of the games real quick, going back to the early part of the schedule, Arkansas and Memphis, that's going to be at 11 a.m. on ABC. More Big Ten play. You got Maryland and Wisconsin. That's going to be on NBC and streaming on Peacock. Clemson will try to get back on track as they host our buddy Dave Kerner's Syracuse Orange. That's going to be on ESPN. Let's see here. Tennessee will hope to bounce back from losing the heartbreaker to Georgia as they host UAB at 11:45. Going into the afternoon games, you got Oregon hosting Oregon State in the Civil War battle. From back in the Pac-10, Pac-12 days. That's going to be at 2 o'clock on BTN. Kent State and Florida State on SEC Network. And your big game, the SEC Nation folks will be at this one. You got Auburn, number 22 Auburn, and number 11 Oklahoma on ABC at 2:30.
I want to touch on the Michigan-Nebraska game if I can for 1 second. I know that this is a big game for Nebraska. I know Matt Rule, we talked about during the offseason that this is going to be an important year for him. I know he has his team out to a 3-0 nothing record right now, and Dylan Raiola is their star quarterback for the second year. I want to see how he does well against this Michigan defense because we know that Michigan defense, I know they lost some of their players to graduation into the NFL, but they can still bring it. And Riola still has a nice arm, but he's definitely going to get tested coming up tomorrow. I just want to see what his grade is going to be against a much tougher defense. Michigan, I think they're going to keep it close to the best. I think it's going to be physical. I think they're going to try to run the ball, but they can air it out a little bit too. But I think it's going to be a battle of can the Michigan defense force a couple of turnovers on Dylan Riola. If they can do that, I think they'll walk away with a tough win on the road.
Bryce Underwood's going to be, he's already, he's been in Norman, so he'll be battle tested because that place at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, that's going to be a tough place to play. So I hope he tested again his young Michigan career. So we'll just see what happens in that game. Also, going back to the early game at 11 a.m. ESPN2, a couple old Southwest Conference rivals. SOU and TCU is going to be the last that they're going to be playing each other for a while, so we'll see how both these teams do. Now, Notre Dame, we'll see if they can bounce back against as they host Purdue. That's going to be at 2:30 on NBC and streaming on Peacock. North Carolina and UCF at 2:30 on Fox. You're going into the late games here. You got Georgia Tech. Well, say at 2:30. You got Georgia Tech hosting Temple. Shouldn't have no trouble there at 3:30 on the CW, WGN for those of you scoring at home. West Virginia and Kansas as they start Big 12 play. That's at 5 o'clock on FS1. South Carolina will try to bounce back from that loss against Vandy as they face the Fighting Mike Berman's and Josh Friedman's Mizzou Tiger squad at 6 o'clock on ESPN.
Continue the primetime schedule at 6:30 on ABC. We'll have 1 and 2 Florida Gators traveling to the Hurricane Country to face the number 4 ranked Miami Hurricanes. They're checking in at 3-0 right now. Carson Beck has been very impressive for their Hurricane squad. I expect the Hurricanes to dominate the Florida Gators tomorrow night. Miami's favored by 8.5 points at home. Number 20 Vanderbilt will host Georgia State. That's on ESPNU. LSU and Brian Kelly, they'll host Southwest Louisiana. Shouldn't be no problem there. Texas will host number 8 Texas will host Sam Houston. That should be no problem. And this could be a sneaky good game. At 10 o'clock p.m. tomorrow night on Fox, we'll have number 25 USC. The Trojans will host Michigan State. Both teams checking in at 3-0. This is definitely a big spot for both these teams. And if USC should win this game, can we start to take them seriously in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of been sneakily, been looking around and such. Like no one's really talking about them, and I have a feeling that Lincoln Riley actually likes it that way. They got to face Aiden Childs, who's he can run the ball as well as throw it. He has, I think he has a couple of rushing touchdowns this season. But Maiva, who is their quarterback, I'm talking about USC's quarterback, Jaden Maiava, he's been really solid too for them. 6 TDs, almost 1,000 rush passing yards this year. So yeah, it could be. I would say take the over if you're if you're a betting person. Take the over in this game because this might be one of the thrill ones that you have to stay up for at 10 o'clock Central Time. But it should be a good one down there at the Rose Bowl.
For entertainment purposes only, the ones that cannot legally bet yet, USC's favored by 18.5. The over/under total is 54.5. So Vegas is expected for this to be a high-scoring affair. So I think you agree with them, LaKeena, the way you were talking.
All right, like I said, it should be a thriller down there at the Rose Bowl. And that's your schedule for Week 4 in college football.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun. The Second City Sports #Football Friday continues with Mike Doocy from Fox-4 TV in Dallas and our girl, Miss Christine the Queen Manika. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. I'm LaKeena McGee. You can find me at Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidK80. Once again, it's SidK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
And of course, if you got questions and comments, for our next guest, you can it's right there on the Sports Social Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Now, so we're going to get right to it here. We're going to be previewing Cowboys and Bears this Sunday, as well as the busy sports scene in Dallas, which is very busy this time of year. He's a veteran sports anchor reporter for Fox 4 in Dallas, Fort Worth. So please welcome. Well, he started doing this when he was like 12 years old, so he's been doing this a long time. He's the one, the only, the fabulous Mr. Mike Doocy. Mike, how are you?
Oh, what a great introduction, LaKeena and Sid. It's great to be with you in the Windy City, one of my favorite towns. Thanks for talking with me for a few minutes here today.
No problem. No problem. So, of course, the main thing where we wanted you to come on for is for Cowboys and Bears. Now, what's the mood like with the Cowboys right now? They got that big win against divisional foe, the Giants, and what's the mood like for the Cowboys as they gear up for their matchup against the Bears on Sunday?
It's been an odd first 2 weeks because they came out of the Eagles game, that Thursday night opener to start the NFL season, and it felt like kind of a good loss for the Cowboys, even though they lost the game. They played pretty well. They gave Philly a much better game than I thought they would, frankly. And so I think they came out of that pretty encouraged. And then they play a team in the Giants. Dallas was a favorite. Most people thought that would be a one-sided Dallas win, and the Cowboys needed kind of a miracle overtime victory to get it done. So that felt like kind of a bad win. So maybe a good loss and a bad win equals a 1-1 record. There wasn't much optimism, frankly, entering this season, which is somewhat unusual for Cowboys fans. Usually they're kind of like Jerry Jones is. They always have unrealistic expectations for this team. But this year, I don't think there was quite that optimism, especially after the Micah Parsons trade, frankly. But I think maybe, and I can't speak for the fan base, obviously, but my sense is maybe 2 games in, people think this team might be a little better than we thought, given the fact that the quarterback's playing really well right now. They might be able to run the ball. Got a great kicker, the best kicker in the league. And the defense, though, they got to figure some things out there. Caleb could have a big day Sunday.
I know you say you can't speak for all Cowboys fans, but you know as well as I do that they have a rich tradition of quarterbacks being the face of the franchise, going back to Roger Staubach, of course, Troy Aikman, Tony Romo, of course, now let's focus in on Dak Prescott. I know he's been injured 2 out of the last 4 or 5 years, but when he's been healthy, he's been a top 3, top 5 quarterback in the league. And the last time he had to play the full season, he was number 2 for MVP. What's your take on Dak Prescott? Do you think that he could take them to the Super Bowl, or do you think he, according to some NFL pundits, that he's slightly overrated? What's your feeling on Dak Prescott? Do you think he's getting his just due as a very good quarterback in the National Football League?
That's a good question, and I think it's a complicated question to answer because I think when he's healthy, there have been times, to your point, where he's been one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He was second in MVP voting, second team All-Pro just 2 years ago. When he's been healthy, for virtually any season he's healthy, the Cowboys are a playoff team, or at least this close to being one. And, they won 12 games 3 times under Mike McCarthy with Dak Prescott as their quarterback. It's the postseason that's been the thing that's gotten him, just 2-5 in the postseason. For whatever reason, he's really struggled there. You ask if he can take them to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's in the cards this year just because of the supporting cast. But I think this offense might be one that on its own could be a playoff, if not championship caliber type offense. It's pretty explosive, and Dak leads the way there. So again, when he's healthy, and early this season, he's been really impressive in that he's looked very confident. He's always been accurate, and that's been the case here early on. And his legs seem to be back just a little bit. He's not as mobile as he was when he first came into the league, but suffered the hamstring injury last year and worked really hard in the rehab. He lost, I don't know, he might have lost 15 or 20 pounds. He looks leaner than he did. Nobody's going to confuse him with Lamar or Jalen Hurts or any of those guys who can really run as quarterbacks. But I think he's mobile enough that can be part of his game, maybe throwing on the run, picking up a first down with his legs as he did in that overtime against the Giants that got Brandon Aubrey an even better field goal position. So I do think Dak, when healthy, is a top 10 quarterback. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to take the Cowboys to the Super Bowl. I'd bet against that now, frankly, because it's really unusual for a guy his age to get there for the first time. And fans here, we're spoiled for generations with Roger. Here's how it's fallen. Just to give you an example, Danny White was the quarterback who succeeded Roger Staubach. And nobody remembers Danny White. He took the Cowboys to 3 NFC championship games. But since they lost each of them, Danny White's not in the team's Ring of Honor. He's certainly not in the Hall of Fame. You look at his numbers for the time that he played, and he was as good as anybody going. The Cowboys would give anything now just to get to 1 NFC championship game. That would cement Dak Prescott's legacy, I think. So that's how far the franchise has fallen in terms of expectations. From getting to 3 NFC championships games isn't enough to make you considered an elite franchise quarterback, to just getting to 1 and you'd be worshipped down here. So Dak's legacy will be somewhat complicated in the way Tony Romo's was. They're the same guy right now. Their numbers are almost exactly the same. Romo has more 300 games. I should have pulled these numbers up, but Dak's winning percentage is probably a little bit better. Dak's in a position where he's going to pass Romo just did pass Romo for completions all time. I think he still trails Aikman. So right now they're the same guy. If Dak can have just a little more of a taste of that playoff success, he would move a little bit closer to Aikman and Staubach territory, although he's obviously never going to get there.
Now let's talk about his receiving core. Of course, you got CeeDee Lamb, who hasn't had a touchdown catch yet. He's had more drops, unfortunately, and also George Pickens, who they brought in from Pittsburgh, and of course also Jake Ferguson as well. How do you think of this core, and can this core kind of get to that place where they could probably maybe compete for if not the NFC East, maybe even a wild card spot?
I was in that locker room in Philadelphia after that game where Lamb had those 3 or 4 drops, standing right next to him as we were interviewing him, and I saw how distraught he was there. That was a tough opening game for him, even though it was a 100-yard receiving game. This guy has really turned into a great professional. He's a top 2 or 3 receiver, I think, in the NFL, and I think he's poised to have a huge year. I think they waited too long to get him involved, strangely enough, in the Giants game. I don't know what they were waiting for, but once they did, he was really effective. And I think that combination can be really special. He and Dak, I don't think we're always close. I think it's taken them a while to develop the kind of relationship that really good quarterbacks and really good receivers tend to have. But I think they have that now, and Lamb really respects his quarterback, and certainly Dak values what CeeDee Lamb brings to the table. Pickens was acquired from Pittsburgh, as you mentioned, and he was one of the most talked about guys at training camp. If the Micah Parsons story hadn't happened, it would have been story one, the new wide receiver. And he made his presence known in game 2, not so much in game 1. I think he drew a long interference penalty in game 1. That was probably his biggest contribution. He was only targeted like 3 times in the first game, but he had some big catches in the Giants win. He's a little bigger receiver than CeeDee, taller anyway, and a deep threat. That's what he's been known for. He ran a really precise, impressive route to get his touchdown in that Giants game where he went into the end zone and then came back to the goal line, and Prescott hit him really with a perfect ball just over the goal line. So that was good to see from a Cowboys perspective. I think that's what gives them a chance to be explosive, those options. But I do think one of the keys to this passing game is the other guy you mentioned, and that's Jake Ferguson. He was a Pro Bowl caliber guy 2 years ago, and last year regressed in part because of injuries, in part because of Dak being out, frankly, and just in part because I don't think he played as well, and he would admit it. But he is a big tight end who knows how to run routes, who's an excellent receiver, doesn't drop the ball typically. And when the Cowboys have been good through the years, again, we're talking about the old days here, and I've been around a while, but when I got here, Jay Novacek was the tight end that Troy Aikman relied upon. Jason Witten was the tight end that Romo, and early in Dak's career, he relied upon as well. So Ferguson would certainly like to take up that mantle. Your younger viewers won't remember, but there was a time where a guy named Mike Ditka was a tight end for the Cowboys, not just the Bears, but the Cowboys as well. So a little synergy there between our two cities. So those are some of the keys, I think, to this offense, and certainly the passing game, those 3. And I think it has a chance to be really solid, if not explosive. And given the way this defense is played, most weeks it's going to need to be explosive for them to win games.
Fox 4 Dallas TV's Mike Doocy's joining us right here on Second City Sports on Chicago City. LaKeena hanging out here with you on the hashtag Football Friday, previewing Bears and Cowboys. The Foxes are America's game of the week coming up this Sunday on the lakefront. Mike, one of the big storylines here in Chicago going into this game on Sunday is, of course, former Bears head coach, now your new defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus. He doesn't have a lot to work with as of yet, of course, via the trade of Micah Parsons to Green Bay. Of course, you guys picked up Jadeveon Clowney. What will be Matt Eberflus's game plan to stop Caleb Williams and the Bears on Sunday?
Yeah, they need to get more pressure on him than they got on Russell Wilson. Technically, they got 3 sacks, but Wilson went nuts. He had 450 yards through the air, one of the best days of his career. The Cowboys secondary just looked terrible. Eberflus is already taking some heat here because he's playing mostly zone defense, and his DBs are chasing guys. We're seeing the backs of their jerseys during a lot of games, which is not a good sign. That's for sure. Eberflus was really, I don't know him well, but people around here really like him from his first time around here as an assistant coach. Got some yard work going on outside, guys. Sorry, you might be hearing that. But but it's so early in his time here. I feel for the guy in that he had to take this job, I would assume, in large part for the opportunity to work with Micah Parsons. And then he gets here, and Jerry gets mad and trades Micah. Eberflus has to be like, so what do I do now exactly? They need to figure out a way to generate more pressure. A guy named James Houston has kind of come out of nowhere to provide some of that. Maybe Clowney has a little left. He had 9.5 sacks, the season before last. So maybe he can recapture some of that magic. I think, frankly, what the Cowboys have to hope for is that Caleb is just been as bad as he's looked for most of the first 2 games, frankly, in this one too, because I'm not sure the Dallas defense is going to be able to do a whole lot to turn him over or make big plays against him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they don't have like, no names. They got Trevon Diggs, Malik Hooker, and Dante Fowler Jr. So it's not like they don't have guys, but it just seems like they're not meshing very well, and that's kind of like why we're seeing what we're seeing with the Cowboys defense.
Well, also Duron Bland was their corner who had the All-Pro year a couple of seasons ago and then got hurt last year, and he's had a foot injury early this season as well. By the time this airs, maybe we'll know, but Jerry Jones mentioned on his radio show the other day there's a chance Bland comes back for this game, and that'll help, certainly. But I think there's just an adjustment period maybe to Eberflus's scheme. The way you are forced to practice in the NFL now is so much different than it used to be, and I think it's hard to really install stuff in a way that it translates into game situations until you've been through a few ball games. I'm not trying to make excuses for Eberflus for this defense, but it might be a little early to judge them too harshly. But with that said, they've looked really bad, especially in that Giants game where Russell just picked them apart.
Talk to us about new head coach Brian Schottenheimer. Of course, we know about his late dad, the great Marty Schottenheimer. The teams that he coached back in the day, the late 80s with the Cleveland Browns, of course, with Kansas City in the 90s, and, of course, with Washington and San Diego in the early mid to 2000s. Of course, some of those teams weren't talented, but he got the most out of his team. He was a great motivator. Brian Schottenheimer, of course, has been an offensive coordinator for a long time. Talk to us about his personality and what he brought thus far through 2 weeks to that Cowboys coaching room.
Yeah, he had been the offensive coordinator around here under Mike McCarthy for a few years, but he didn't call the plays. So to me, when you evaluate Schottenheimer, it's twofold. On one hand, as a head coach, and he is big on culture. He's a really impressive guy in terms of a news conference setting. I think he enjoys that kind of give and take. He's a great communicator, or appears to be with us anyway. And I'm assuming he's that way with his players too, in a different way than his dad was. His dad, I always thought, was probably kind of an old school guy, really, could be very explosive in his personality, but could be pretty hard on his players. I think Brian Schottenheimer is a guy who wants to build relationships with his players, even friendships with his players, frankly, although he's quick to point out that he'll have hard conversations with his players. But he'll say repeatedly how valuable he thinks culture is. And some of us who are cynics say, yeah, that's great, until you start losing football games, and culture doesn't do you much good. But the players rave about him.
Right.
Dak has been through, a number of head coaches now, obviously, and loves the relationship that he has with Schottenheimer. That's a huge part of it. So that's one side. What do you do as a head coach? How do you manage a game? But more than that, how do you run your organization? How do you run your practices? What kind of locker room culture do you have? To me, what's even more interesting is, as an OC who calls the plays now, what kind of game will he call? And I don't think we're going to see drastic differences between what McCarthy did and what Schottenheimer does. But there's been a little more pre-snap motion. They've relied a little more on the run in certain situations, and that's what Schottenheimer said he would do. Javonte Williams has been pretty good in the first couple of games. He had 90-some yards against the Giants. He's a little bull of a runner who's been good around the goal line and has broken some tackles and made some really tough runs, because one of the problems the Cowboys have on offense right now, we talk about potential explosiveness, but in terms of the trenches, their offensive line has some real question marks. Their center's out, Beebe. So a guy named Brock Hoffman, who's been a career guard, has to come in and play center now. Guyton, the young left tackle, had a bad rookie year. He's trying to bounce back from that. So on and on we go. You got a rookie playing the other guard spot in Booker, the kid from Alabama. So the offensive line has not graded out real well through the first couple of games, but the runner who's been getting most of the action has done pretty well, and it's allowed Schottenheimer, I think, to rely more on the run than maybe we're used to around here. But it still comes down to what Dak can do for his play caller, and so far the quarterback, as I said, has been pretty good, and I think Schottenheimer, as the Giants game went on, seemed to get more variety, seemed to get more guys involved. So as his game went on against New York, I think his play calling may be improved. Of course, when it works, it always looks like it's improved, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the rest of the sports scene in Dallas. I know it's very busy this time of year. Well, it always is, but especially this time of year. Let's talk about Texas, the Texas Rangers first. We kind of left them for dead. I'll be honest with you, Mike. But you thought that maybe they got within 2 games of the AL West. Now they've since they lost 3 in a row. They lost their first 2 to Houston. Do you think they can somehow sneak in there to the playoffs, either winning the West or even getting one of the wild card spots?
Yeah, coming into the Houston series, I would have said it was looking like it was trending in that direction because they played so well. They'd won 16 of their last 21. It's been an odd summer for Texas Rangers baseball because this franchise historically has been known for its bats and not its arms, with the notable exception of Nolan Ryan, 35, 40 years ago. You can't think of many pitchers that have really made their names with the Texas Rangers, but their pitching has been at or near the top of the American League statistically all year. And the bats have been near the bottom. And so that's been really odd as they've struggled to try to get above 500 for most of the year. And finally, in this last stretch, had gotten 7 or 8 games above 500, had gotten to within a couple of Houston for that last wild card spot. But as you said, they dropped the first 2 of that all-important Houston series. And by the time folks are seeing this, we'll know how the last one went as well. So I think the odds are really long now, frankly. Almost everything would have to break right for them because not only is Houston in front of them, but I think maybe Cleveland is in front of them in the wild card race now too. So it gets jumbled there. And it's going to get to the point where there are a handful of games left and everything has to go right for the Rangers and everything has to go wrong for the other teams. So I think it's going to be remembered, frankly, as kind of a wasted year in terms of the pitching that they got. And it's just kind of a shame for this franchise to have waited this long to put this kind of staff together. And I look at Chris Young, the president of baseball operations, who was a good major league pitcher in his day. This has to be killing him because he worked so hard to get these arms together on the same team. And then it's the bat that didn't work out. But baseball can be unpredictable in that way. I think the big off-season story will be, will Bruce Bochy come back and manage for another year? They won the World Series under his leadership 2 years ago. He's 70, 71 years old, I think now. And if it were me, the temptation would be to walk away, but he's a lifer. He loves the game. So maybe he'd want to come back and give it another shot. So it hasn't been a disastrous season for the Rangers. It's been just kind of an odd one in terms of what's been good and what hasn't been good. The good news about baseball in Texas is now, though, I remember where we used to have to sit outside in 100-degree weather and watch the games. Now they can close that roof. It's 72. The AC is on, and so we're loving it. I know you guys in Chicago don't want to hear about that because that's for wimps, right? You gotta sit outdoor at Wrigley or on the South Side, but we'll take the AC. We'll take the AC at Arlington.
Yes, it's definitely hot down there in Texas. We heading down the home stretch with our guy Mike Doocy from FOX-4 TV in Dallas, right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena here with you. Let's go to the NBA. Mike, I know the media day is about another week or 2 away, and of course, training camp follows that. I know some Mavericks fans have some big expectations for the Mavericks this year, especially with Cooper Flag being the #1 pick. Kyrie Irving is eligible to come off the injured list right after the All-Star break as he recovers from a torn ACL. Give us your realistic expectations for the Dallas Mavericks this year. You have Cooper Flag. You have Anthony Davis, Chicago's very own. If he can stay healthy, I think Dallas could be right there because the Western Conference is still going to be competitive this year.
And again, it's just been such a strange time for this franchise, right? I mean, it's just – and the Micah trade just brought back flashbacks of the Luka trade for this market. Mm-hmm. It's hard to remember a time where one city has been forced to endure 2 iconic superstars being traded away in such unexpected fashion. And Luka is just going to be on this revenge tour, which is going to be a nightmare for Mavs fans. But then they become the luckiest franchise in the world by getting the top pick and getting Cooper Flag in here. And all indications are that he's going to be a really solid player right away and maybe a superstar before too long. I think, to your point, health, especially with the older guys is key, like for every team. But if Kyrie can stay on the court, if AD can stay on the court, if Klay Thompson can maybe recapture some of that magic and regain some of that shooting touch that seems to have left him last year. You know, they re-signed PJ Washington, who's a really versatile player for them as well. I don't know if they're a championship team, but I think they're in the mix to win a playoff series or two if everything breaks right for them. And again, to have gone from where they were in terms of the fan base here, and Nico Harrison, again, the GM here, it's still going to be a while, I think, unfortunately for him, before he can probably go out in public and not be heckled a little bit. And that's unfortunate. That should never happen. But trading Luka the way that he did is still something that's a little bit puzzling. But maybe Cooper can make him, if not forget Luka Doncic, at least say, okay, all right, we get a chance to cheer for the Mavs again. But yeah, it's hard to believe at times here. Stars media day today for hockey, so that's going to get underway too. It's a fun time of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And let's talk about the Stars for a second. I know they got a new head coach, Glenn Gluzelton. And what do you think are the realistic expectations for them going into the NHL season?
Well, I think an immediate Stanley Cup is the expectation here, because they fired a coach who could only get to the conference final on 3 consecutive occasions. So it would follow that if you bring Gulutzan back, who was here once before, you think that he's the guy who can take you over the top. Peter DeBoer was the former coach, and it's a cliche to say that his voice had kind of lost its effectiveness in the locker room, as it were. The players needed to hear another voice, whatever. I think maybe the goaltender Jake Ottinger did more than anybody else. But I think of all the teams in this market, the Stars by far are the ones from whom we should expect the most right now. The expectations should be sky high because they've come so close so often. They have such an outstanding young core, potentially explosive offensively, outstanding on the blue line too. And Ottinger, who when he's right is among the best goaltenders in hockey. So we'll see what Gulutzan can do in his second time around, but I think it could be an exciting time on the ice for fans down here too.
Okay. Last question from me, Mike, before we spring you. I periodically watch your guys' nightly sports show. It's called Free for All. You, Miss Sam Gannon, and Jeff Kolb, you guys do a great job. How did that show come about? And from the outside looking in, you guys definitely give the Dallas Fort Worth sports fans what they want with strong opinions, and also too just telling them how it is. You guys have some fun too along the way. Tell us how that show got started.
Well, Sid, I appreciate you asking that question. It was 7 years ago this month that it started, and our management wanted to kind of do a sports show that was a little bit non-traditional. The local stations, as you know, tend to have sportscasts at whatever 5:20, 6:20, 10:20 in the Central Time Zone, and that's what we always did. They wanted us to do an expanded show and to let it breathe a little bit. Maybe and see what form it would take. Maybe it's a talk show some nights. Maybe it's more of a highlight show other nights. We brought in a co-host, as you said, and Sam about 6 months after we started the show. And so we've had a good time with it here over the last 7 years or so, in part because of just the conversation we've been having. It's like Chicago. There's always something going on. There's always something to talk about. And we're the only ones on over-the-air television who are doing it this way right now, where people at 10:30 every night can tune over and get caught up on what sports news happened that day, maybe catch an interview. Maybe it's an interview like the one we're doing with another media personality who covers a particular sport. Maybe it's a current or former athlete that we're talking to, or maybe Sam and I or Jeff and I are just, knocking around some topics as well. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. You know how it is. It's challenging to keep a show going and to keep the guests coming and keep the content going. But I'll put it this way: most of the time I enjoy it. Most of the time I enjoy it a lot, and people are watching, which I really do appreciate.
All right, very cool.
Before I kick it back to
go ahead.
Yeah, before I kick it back to LaKeena, I was watching your latest episode from Monday, Mike. I know you guys did a segment called your intro song. Sam had Miss Sam Gannon had Rihanna. You had Mr. Bruce Springsteen. I know me and LaKeena talk about we telling our ages, we referring to certain artists from our time. We're both 80s babies, but I thought it was very cool of you to at least show some respect to Bruce Springsteen.
It hurt though when Sam said that quite often her mom would play Bruce in the car. So I'm like, she put me in my place there. Yeah.
Yeah. You hate it when they do that though, right? You always hate it when the 20s and 30s selves they do that kind of thing. Like we're approaching that too. So yeah. But last question for me, Mike. SMU and TCU, they face each other this weekend in college football. SMU's 2-1, TCU's undefeated. Do you see either one of those teams being not even in their respective just in their respective conferences, but perhaps competing for a playoff spot?
It's a good question. I would lean maybe TCU if I had to pick one of those two, and I don't have their schedules in front of me right now. But it's the big aspect of the story down here is it's the last time they're scheduled to play one another for the foreseeable future. And they've played like 104 times, and the campuses are 30 miles from one another, but because they're not in the same conference anymore, and I think this was largely driven by TCU, frankly, wanting to get an easier non-conference game on the schedule and to be able to schedule more home games, they'll discontinue it after this year. But we're lucky to have these two programs in our market with two really good coaches. They've both been playoff teams in the last couple of years. Sonny Dykes is a really good coach at TCU. Rhett Lashley's an up-and-comer with SMU. They're going to have to work hard, frankly, to keep him probably. But I think it's a close game on Saturday. It is a slight favorite for TCU, I think, from the bookmakers. And because it is in Fort Worth at TCU, I'd probably favor the Horned Frogs slightly. But I look for a good game.
Well, as Southwest Conference rivals there from way back in the day.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, Mike. This has been Mike Doocy, FOX-4 Dallas TV sports anchor and reporter. Mike, thank you so much very much for taking time on your busy schedule to join us here today on the program. But before you leave us, tell us where can people find you on social media, and where can people outside the Dallas TV area can watch your nightly sports program?
Yeah, thank you. If you download the Fox local app, you can watch our nightly free-for-all show. And I'm going to look at my Twitter right now just to make sure that's something I should know. At Mike Doocy, FOX-4, and on Instagram at mdoocy. So the kids love the soch. I know that. So we're doing the best we can there, guys. All right.
Exactly. I've been more active on Instagram lately too, so I know the feeling. Like, it's been an honor to talk to you. Thank you so much, for doing this. Like I told you before we started recording, we'll definitely be doing this again soon. Thanks, Mike.
I look forward to it. You guys were great. Thank you.
You back at you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
All right. See ya.
All right. That was Mike Doocy from FOX-4 News in Dallas. Well, Sid, we got to take our 2 and 2, and when we come back, we'll have our girl Christine Manika from KXRB join us for our NFL Week 3 picks and so much more. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Stick and stay.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Chi. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color on this hashtag Football Friday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McGee on the Twitter, executives again, IG.
This is our last break of the show for today and for the week. So if you have any last minute questions or comments of any of the topics that we discussed on this show thus far, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Let's not waste any more time, Sid. Let's get our girl, your girl from KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika. What's up, Christine?
Yay!
Hello. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. How are you?
We're doing good. We're pushing along.
That's basically all we can do right now. Now, real quick, let's a quick recap of that Dolphins Bills game. You know, if you took the under on that game last night, you had a pretty nice start to week 3. So, real quick, what did you guys think about that? It was a good fight by the Dolphins, or do you think it was just the fact that the Bills defense was basically short-handed?
You know, one of my coworkers is a unfortunate, as he would say, Dolphins fan, and he just said it was straight up bad today. He said it was awful for him to watch. And I said, you know, to their credit, they kept it interesting. At least it was a closer game than what I was expecting, especially, you know, towards the halftime, towards the end of the game. Even I said to my husband, I said, I'm surprised the Bills aren't like running away with this right now. So it was surprising to an extent where the Dolphins kept it at least interesting.
I think it's Baltimore and Buffalo, the top two teams, excuse me, in the NFL right now. But the Buffalo Bills got to shore up their defense. Even in that great comeback win a week ago against Baltimore, their defense has been shredded to start the year. So they had to tighten up that. But Josh Allen, the offense is very impressive. 30+ points in the first 3 games and no turnovers. Very, very impressive.
Might be looking at back-to-back MVPs. We'll see. Still a long ways to go, and also a long ways to go on our picks. I'm still up 1 against Christine, and Sid, you're bringing the Warrior 2 back. We each, Christine, we had 10 last week, and Sid, you only had 9. Had 9.
Here's the thing, though, real quick, not to make an excuse. Not to make an excuse. Yes, we still got a long way to go, but Your boy was 0-3 in primetime games last week. The Sunday night, the 2 Monday night games. Thank you very much, Houston Texans.
We'll see if Houston. Yeah, we'll see if Houston can bounce back. We'll get to that game in a bit here. But first off, well, speaking of Atlanta, let's start in the NFC South. You got Atlanta coming off that big win last week against the 0-2 Panthers. Sid, you start this one for us.
Atlanta's favored by 5.5. Of course, Carolina is still a young football team, and this will be their home opener. I will hope that the Falcons will finally get this word in their head. It's called consistency. They showed it last week against Minnesota on the road in prime time. They got to go back on the road again in a short week against a division opponent, and they have to be guarded of playing down to their competition. If they're guarded against that, they should blow out the Panthers. If they're not, it's going to be closer than what people expect. I'm trusting the Falcons, and I'm taking the points. We just pick winners here on this show, so I'm going with Atlanta.
I'm going with Atlanta, too. This one's pretty straightforward for me. The Panthers are still trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah, I'm picking Atlanta, too. Now, will the Panthers cover? That's the thing. So, especially after, we'll see how Atlanta's, what their mindset is coming up after that big win in Minnesota on last Sunday night. Now, Green Bay tops in the division. Most of the nation, well, this part of the country, Chicago, and also the Sioux Falls, where Christine is, will get this game. You got the 2-0 Packers against the 0-2 Browns. Christine, start this one for us, please.
I like Joe Flacco, and the Packers are just the team, one of the top teams to be looking out for this season, especially for the NFC North. They got something. I don't know what it is, but I hope, the Bears crack it by the time they first face them in December. For this game, though, I'm going to go with the Packers.
The Browns are 7.5-point underdogs at home. The Packers have been very impressive thus far. I got a feeling that Cleveland may make it a game out of it for some reason. I got a sneaky feeling they'll make a game out of it, but Green Bay's too talented. Micah Parsons has had a nice start to the year. This is games that Jordan Love should get it going. I'm going with Green Bay, but don't be surprised if the Browns cover.
Yeah, I'm going to also pick Green Bay too. But yeah, and I think I would be surprised. I think Myles Garrett won't get an interception, and I think that'll keep that's what kind of keep him in it. But I think Green Bay should win this one pretty handily. Now in the AFC South, our buddy Spiro Diaz from CBS friend of the show will have the call of this game. You got the 0-2 Texans after losing a tough one against Tampa on Monday night, going down to Jacksonville to face the Jags. And Jesus, I think not having Joe Mixon has been becoming a problem for Houston. So that's becoming an issue there. I know the defense has been okay, not great. The Jaguars, again, they've been okay, not great. This could be one of those ugly, 9-6, like 6-3, 1980s football. I guess because they're home, I'm picking Jacksonville.
Yeah, I put a Texans with a question mark. I think right now they're the more, I guess, more structured team is what I'm saying. I don't know if that's a true comparison or not, but hesitantly, I'm picking the Texans.
I'm going to jump on the bandwagon, Christine. The Jacksonville's favored by 4.5 at home, which means Vegas has this as a pick 'em. I can see that everybody's down on Houston, rightfully so. Right now, they're 0-2. You saw the way they lost their home opener last Monday night against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Jacksonville is they should have won their game last week at Cincinnati, even though they knocked out Joe Burrow for the next 3 months or so. But I just got this strange feeling that Houston's going to come up with a big play at the end to secure the win. So I'm going with Houston.
Should be a good one down there in Jacksonville. Now, speaking of Cincy, most of the people will get this game on CBS. Fox has a doubleheader again this week. The Bengals and the Vikings, the battle of the backup QBs, if you really got Jake Browning for the Bengals. And the Vikings, of course, you got Carson Wentz, his first NFL start in a couple of years. So, so you start this one.
I know Christine's looking forward to this because she hates Carson
Wentz.
Good
luck, Minnesota, with Carson Wentz. Good luck. That's all I can say. Good luck.
I know the Vikings are favored by 2.5 points at home. I think just because I know I'll take two and call me in the morning. This is definitely going to be a toss-up game, but just because I'm going with the Vikings.
I'm going with you, Sid, on the Vikings. It's a home game for them. And my husband was great to point out that they really don't rely on their quarterback as much in Minnesota. It's more about the run game, Justin Jefferson, now that they have Adam Thielen back. That's what really that they focus on when it comes to their offensive plays. And it's tough to play in around a bunch of Vikings. So Carson Wentz, I'm putting my faith in you for 1 week.
Yeah, I'm also picking Minnesota too. I just they Cincy had no business winning that game against Jacksonville. Excuse me. And I think Minnesota, you got Carson Wentz. Georgia Mason's gonna have a big game as well because remember Aaron Jones is also out too. So I think Justin Jefferson will have a breakout game as well because of Wentz, and I think Minnesota will do just enough to win this game. So it should be a fun one up there in the Twin Cities. Next up, you got the Steelers and the Patriots. Christine, you start the battle of 1-1s.
Think I'm going to go with the Steelers for this one. It's hard to stop the defense of the Steelers, especially with TJ Watt on the other side. I've seen a lot of improvements when it comes to Drake May and what he's been doing so far. I think Vrabel is going to find his way too. When you're talking about experience, though, it's the Steelers, hands down, I think.
I'm going with Pittsburgh too. I think LaKeena may be right on this one, that this could be a 17-10, 2017 type game. I think Pittsburgh is built for this, and the Patriots, especially their secondary, is still banged up right now. So I'm going with Pittsburgh, and they're favored by 1.5. So Vegas has this as a pick'em.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh wins this one. I think they're going to be smarting from last week's loss. So I think this will use motivation. I think Tom will get on his guys to to get it going. So yeah, they're picking the Steelers for this one. The Battle of 2-0s. I'll be watching this game on this laptop here. You got the Battle of 2-0s. You got the Rams and the Eagles. Yeah, this is another toss-up here, and I was back and forth on this. The Eagles are a very interesting, team, of course, coming off, of course, Super Bowl and all that. We'll see how their mindset is. I'm sure, Coach Sirianni will make sure they don't get all high up on the Chiefs. That Chiefs win. The Rams are 2-0. They're actually used to playing across country. They do a couple. I think Sean McVay's in total. I think he lost 2 games in his whole entire career against when playing at noon. So, but I think because again, it's also a rematch of the divisional round game. I know the Rams are going to want to have revenge on their minds for this one. It'll be close, but I think the Eagles in the end will win it. So I'm picking Philadelphia, but I would be surprised if the Rams do win this game.
I think the Eagles, this one was an easy pick for me. I think they're going to have the Rams hands down. It's very hard to stop Saquon Barkley. And the Eagles, they're probably the team to beat right now. One of the teams to beat, in my opinion. And with the Rams, yes, you have Stafford. Yes, you have Puka Nacua. But you don't have Cooper Kupp. You're missing a lot of those veteran players that, Stafford relied a lot on. So the Eagles, they pretty much have everyone in motion minus Goddard right now. I know he's injured, but with Saquon Barkley, I mean, anything is possible for that team. So that's going to continue, I think, for them coming up on Sunday, the Eagles.
Let's not forget, you mentioned, Christine, you forgot one player that's a new addition to the Rams. That's Devontae Adams. He scored his first touchdown as a member of the Rams last week. I'm looking for him to have a big game. And I'm actually going to take the Rams in a surprising upset because of what happened last year in the playoffs. So their last drive ended, I believe, in a turnover. If the Rams would have scored, they would have won that game. Perhaps maybe they would won the Super Bowl, but they'll be motivated by that. I think Devontae Adams is going to have a nice game. I expect him to score a touchdown in this game, and I think that Rams defense is hungry. We know that they're hungry. Now it's going to be a great chess match between the Rams defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's going to be a tough physical game. Kyron Williams is going to grind it out for the Rams. So it's going to come down to who's going to make that big play. And I think the Rams have all the confidence in the world they're going to make that big play. So I'm going with the Rams in a slight upset.
All right, should be a fun one now. Tampa Bay, they're 2-0, but they're a little bit banged up. They host the Jets, who are 0-2. I know their O-line is a little bit banged up. I know they lost one of their tackles for the year. I know Tristan Wirfs, who's their veteran left tackle. he's going to be out for this game, and I know Ibuka, their rookie wide receiver, he's questionable. So it should be, this could give a shot here, but unfortunately Justin Fields is out and Tyrod Taylor is in. Excuse me, and he's faced that particular defense well in his career. Like I said, I think Tampa will win it just because they're at home. But I said, well, if the Jets do win come off the upset down in Tampa, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm picking Tampa here for this game.
This was one of the other easy ones for me to pick. We could see the Jets as we've been seeing them the last couple of years, I'm expecting. And, the Bucks, a little clunky, it's a little dysfunctional, a little scrappy, but that's okay. I'm still on Team Mayfield right now. So let's go with the Bucks.
I'm going with Tampa at home as well. They're favored by 6.5.
All right. You got the Colts and the Titans. Sid, you start this one.
Let me find this on my scorecard. Yes, the Titans are 0-2, while the Colts checking in at 2-0. Of course, the Titans lost their home opener last week to the Rams in ugly fashion. While the Colts, as I told you on this program last week, will pull out the upset over Christine's husband's team, Chris's Denver Broncos. That was a beautiful game to watch. Nothing personal, but I'm humble bragging a little bit. But back to this week. Cam Ward, the rookie quarterback for the Titans, he still has a long way to go. I think he's going to be good eventually, but he's going to have to take a slight step back once again. The Colts, they're coming off that last second field goal win. This is going to be a tough division game. Hopefully they don't get caught looking ahead. So I'm going with the Colts here, and they're favored by 4.5 on the road.
Leave it to a group of women to get the Colts to 2-0 finally, and the Colts fans are rejoicing as we speak. So just goes to show you, women in football, they know a thing or two, and I think the Colts should be pretty good on the road here when they go down to Tennessee. Cam Ward still has a little bit to learn, and Danny Dimes, he is throwing the dimes. So I'm going to go with the Colts here.
I'll keep it short and sweet. I think the Colts should be able to win this one. I know Cam Ward, he'll have I think he'll score. I think he'll toss a touchdown or two. But like I said, I think the Colts, I think that defense especially will definitely lead the way for them there. Now, the last of the noon games, you got the Raiders and the Commanders. Jaden Daniels is out for the Commanders, and Marcus Mariota is in. The Raiders lose a tough one to the Chargers. Now they go across country after in a short week. Christine, you start this one.
I kind of went back and forth with this one. I am going to go with the Raiders just because with the Commanders, I think you never know what you're going to get when it is a backup quarterback coming into the swing of things. Marcus Mariota, he's a solid player. But I think this could be an ugly game. I honestly think it could be an ugly game. Vegas doesn't really have them I think the last time I saw it, it was like 3.5, something like that. The Raiders were the underdogs in it. So that says something, that it kind of is almost a pick 'em. So I'm gonna take the Raiders here in the upset.
I'll give you an update, Christine. According to ESPN.com, the Raiders are now 2.5-point underdogs. So there's some money coming in. Yeah, it moved by 4 points. So a lot of money coming in on the Raiders. As far as this pick is concerned, I'm going with the Raiders too. I'm going with my gut instinct because, as I predicted 2 weeks ago on this show, Pete Carroll, when he was coaching Seattle, he had his teams ready to go on the East Coast, and they performed very well. You saw what happened 2 weeks ago at New England to start the year. They won on the East Coast. I expect that same result again, and a heavy dose of Ashton Genty, their rookie running back. And so the Raiders are going to march into the nation's capital to beat the Commanders. And hopefully they'll leave it all on the field and have nothing next week as they face the Bears. But that's a whole nother issue. But for this game, I'm going with the Raiders.
I think Vegas should be able to win this one. Like I said, no shade to Marcus Mariota, but he's getting up there in age, and I don't know how it's going to look. I mean, we might get that guy they call Bill for Jackson Merritt there. So, but yeah, I think Vegas will have just enough. I know they feel like they should have won that game against the Chargers if Geno had not thrown those interceptions. So I think he's going to want to redeem himself. It'll be a close one, but I think the Raiders should be able to pull this off late. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Cindy Brown, and our girl Christine Manika from KXRB joining us for our NFL Week 3 picks as we go into the 3 o'clock games. The AFC West, you got the Broncos and the Chargers. The Chargers, of course, you know that big win against Vegas, and the Broncos coming off that tough loss in Indy. The defense of the Broncos, they finally showed up, but it was too little too late in that game against the Colts. So, but I'm going to pick the Chargers. I think, Justin Herbert's the hot hand. That defense has been playing very well for the Chargers. And, of course, Jim Harbaugh will have his guys ready and not, lag on the win against Vegas. So I'm picking the Chargers. And I don't know what the number is right now, but I think the Chargers should win this one pretty handily.
This is going to be a good old-fashioned football battle, I feel like, when you got two coaches like Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh. I'm more of a Jim Harbaugh fan for this game. I like Justin Herbert and what he's doing. Bo Nix, he's still looking good, but they got to be better on both sides of the ball, as you were mentioning, LaKeena. And Justin Herbert just has it right now. So I'm going to go with the Chargers.
I'm going to make Christine's husband happy. I'm going with the Broncos in the upset. I know it's back-to-back road games for Denver. I think they learned their lesson last week. They had a dumb penalty which gave the Indianapolis kicker to kick a 45-yard instead of that 60-yard, which the Broncos were penalized on for leveraging to block the field goal. But Denver gave that game away last week. I think Sean Payton, this is where experienced head coach matters in this situation with a young football team. I think Payton has had a good week of practice with these guys. He's going to tell them, this is what I expect you. If you don't, next man up. So this is where coaching matters with a young team like Denver. So I think Sean Payton will have his guys ready. Yes, Jim Harbaugh has his guys. They're good on the other side, but I think that Denver's going to be more focused, and they'll take it to the Chargers. The Chargers are currently favored by 2.5 points. 2.5 points.
All right. We go over to Seattle as they're 1-1. They host the 0-2 Saints. Christine, you start this one.
This one's pretty easy for me. The Seahawks, the Saints, you really don't know what you're going to get with them still this year. I don't think they're really a good team so far. Nothing that I've seen has said otherwise. But I am looking forward to seeing what the Seahawks can do and what Sam Darnold can do with it, because this could be a good get right game, and just to get back to the rhythm of things for the Seahawks. And it's a home game, so Seattle's always a tough stadium to play in too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Seattle had a surprise win at Pittsburgh last week after your boy from the Steelers missed the kickoff with his fingertips, in which it turned that game around for the Seahawks. So I think Seattle has the momentum. They'll build off of that. The Saints stink. I'm going with Seattle. They're currently favored by 7.5 points at home.
All right. The other game
What's
for
your
Fox.
pick, LaKeena?
Seattle. My bad, folks. Seattle. Yeah, Seattle for the same reasons Christine said. I think New Orleans. They play hard, but I just don't think they have the talent yet. So I think Seattle. I think they're going to build off that surprising win at Pittsburgh last Sunday. Now the other game on Fox, of course. Those of you in Western Idaho, most of Oregon, Reno, Nevada, most of the northwest part and the southwest part of Nevada, and most of California will get this game, the Cardinals and the 49ers. Now, the Cardinals actually beat the 49ers twice last year, and they're both 2-0. I know San Fran is a little injury riddle. Brock Purdy did practice again this week. But I don't know. I think they're good. I think they have revenge on their minds, and I think they will get the revenge. It will be close. It could be one of those like the 13-10 type days, but I think San Francisco will win. I guess I only pick it because they're at home.
I'm the same way. 49ers, they're at home, but it should be an interesting match. It could be one of those old school matches where we see 9-7 or 10-11, something crazy like that.
I'm going with San Fran as well. They're favored by 2.5 at home.
All right, Sunday night, the battle of the 0-2s. You got the Chiefs and the Giants. Now, incidentally, though, their last 7 times they faced the Giants on the road, the Chiefs have lost all of them. So something's got to give. Sid, you start this.
Shout out to NBC and shout out to Chicago's very own old school group, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Do you remember the 21st night, September? You'll hear that a lot this coming Sunday. But as far as this game is concerned, yes, Russell Wilson had a performance of a lifetime last week at Dallas. James Hudson, the offensive lineman, keep your hands to yourself this time and not cost your team some yards. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, he had 3 penalties on the opening drive for the New York Football Giants last week at Dallas. Of course, Dallas beat the Giants 40-37 in overtime. Of course, the Chiefs, I picked them last week, and they did not look good at all. And Philadelphia wasn't even trying. And they had their opportunities. I'm talking about Kansas City, and they still lost. But as far as this game is concerned, the run may be over for the Chiefs temporarily, but I don't see them going over 3. I just don't. And Andy Reid, I know he's got to be pulling his hair out right now. But I'm going with the Chiefs in a close one. They are currently 6.5-point favorites.
Yeah, I can't see the Chiefs going 0-3 either, and then have Patrick Mahomes lose 4 games in a row, first time ever in his career. Already the first time ever him 3 in a row when you count that Super Bowl loss there. This is going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a good quarterback battle, especially with what the Giants have going on right now. And this could be a good road trip for the Chiefs for them to get back on the right track. So I'm picking the Chiefs for this one.
Yeah, I pick the Chiefs too. Like I said, I like you guys said, I can't see KC starting 0-3, and I'm not one of those folks that's gonna write the Kansas City's this is over for them. I'm not doing that. So yeah, I think KC, like I said, New York will keep it close like they did last week against the Cowboys, but I think they will. The Chiefs will hang on and win. Now the Monday nighter. Now this game will be simulcast on both ESPN, ABC, and the Manning cast. The Eli and Peyton are back. It should be a good one here. You got the Lions and Baltimore. Now, again, the Lions are going to realize that these aren't the Bears they're playing. There's going to be 7 up in the class in the opponent a little bit here. Now, Derrick Henry, they got to give him the ball, get his confidence back. The Lions, have a good one. This could be one of those slugfest kind of games, and John Harbaugh and Dan Campbell really like it. But I think because they're at home, I'm picking Baltimore.
I am picking the Ravens for this one too. They're at home, and with Derrick Henry and his feet going, it's hard to stop him, even for Aiden Hutchinson on the opposite side of the ball. So the Ravens at home.
No pun intended when I say this joke, but this game hopefully will replace the ratings of the Jimmy Kimmel show. I'll leave it at that. But as far as this game is concerned, like you said, LaKeena, the Lions, they're not playing the Bears. They're going to step up in class and play a better team. Lamar Jackson is going to show up and show out. I'm going with Baltimore. The Ravens, as Christine will always say, they're going Raven wild, and they'll do that on Monday night. Baltimore is currently favored by 4.5.
All right. Last but not least, of course, you got the Cowboys and the Bears. They're a couple every 2-3 years they face each other. You got the number 1 team from Fox, Burkhardt, Brady, Andrews, and Ronaldo on the sidelines. Should be I don't know what I think the over under is like 50
1.5.
Oh well, yeah, the 1.5. Yeah, so it's a pick 'em, and I think the point total is about 50. So this could be one
49.5 now.
Yeah, so that we might see one of those. It might be a slugfest here. Sid, you start off.
If we see a slugfest, Chicago should be able to win this game. But both these defenses are terrible. I know Matt Eberflus, the former Bears head coach, is now the D coordinator of the Cowboys. Caleb Williams, yes, there is some progress. For the first time in a long time, the Bears have scored an opening drive touchdown in back-to-back games. So we'll give the Bears a little love for that.
Yes.
But the defense for the Bears has been bad all year, even though it's the first 2 games. Jalen Johnson's now gone for the year, so you have to find a replacement for him. Tyreek Stevenson has to step up. And Montez Sweat, he did get his first sack last week temporarily before it was wiped out by a penalty, so I expect big things for him. But until I see some consistency amongst all 3 phases of the game, I hate to say it, but I got to be real with this one. I'm going with the Cowboys in the shootout. I think it's going to be about a 30-27, 31-28 type deal at Soldier Field. So I'm going with the Cowboys.
I'd say for the Bears, when it comes to their offense, if they look at any of last year's defensive tape from the Bears, that's how they're going to work Matt Eberflus's defense for the Cowboys. Nothing's changed. It's like you have the hard copy book right there to give you the instructions on how to defeat the Cowboys defense. I'm putting this into consideration. Looks like it's going to rain at Soldier Field on Sunday.
Yes.
77. There's not going to be a dome for the Cowboys. No Jerry's World. 1.5 favorites. Eberflus homecoming. I know Ben Johnson. I know that whole team is going to want to show what they can do. I hope Tom Brady is nice to the Bears. In a way, I hope
with his binoculars.
Nice. Yeah, right.
Oh
gosh. I'm gonna go with the Bears. I have a little bit of faith with them still in a way, and I'm gonna pick the Bears for this one. I'm writing it in because I waited to do it last minute because I'm thinking about the reasons in my head. And then I thought about the defense for the Cowboys with Eberflus. It's a carbon copy of last year's Bears, so it's home game, rainy, a little bit chilly, no dome. I'm going Bears.
All right, as LaKeena rejoins us now, as we mentioned, the Cowboys are currently a 1.5 favorite. The over-under total is 49.5. LaKeena, Christine, she went with the Bears. What say you about America's game of the week?
Well, yeah, it's gonna be. Well, I think, like you said, weather could be a factor here because it's supposed to rain on and off. This is a late game, so it could be like an on and off thing. It could be a battle of the running backs, I feel like. So they may depend on the ground a little bit. So as we talked about it with our buddy Mike Doocy, it's gonna, like I said, will this be a kind of a revenge game for Matt Eberflus? Who knows? But like we talked about. I mean, it's not like they don't have the defense. It's not like there are no names on both sides. So I don't know. It could be like 35 to 32 or something like that. Now, if it comes down to a kick, I'm gonna bet on Mr. Brandon Aubrey, and because of that, I'm picking Dallas because I picked the Bears last week. They got their butts kicked, so no more, not for a while. So I'm picking Dallas, and
I got a little bit of hope, LaKeena. Got a little bit. It's there.
We'll see. So yeah, but I'm picking Dallas for this one. I think it might come down to a field goal. I'm picking Mr. Aubrey for that one, but that's a different conversation. But I'm picking the Cowboys.
All right, and there's your Week 3 NFL picks. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, LaKeena, and Christine hanging out here with you. Before we get to the last couple of topics to close out the show, Christine, quickly your thoughts about the last week's loss from the Chicago Bears as they get destroyed by Dan Campbell and crew, 52-21.
I am holding on like I have my hope left. I'm holding on to that first drive because that was amazing. No notes there. And when it comes to the rest of the game, it just felt like they weren't trying to a certain point of the game. You know what I mean? Like it was close for a period of time, but then they just lost the momentum. They lost the ambition, and they defeated themselves in the end. Dan Campbell and the Lions just took advantage of those opportunities.
And speaking of, the injury part for the Bears, they just posted the latest injury report. TJ Edwards, he's out with a hammy. So is Kyler Gordon with a hammy. We know Johnson's out. And now they're saying, Grady Jarrett was a full participant, so he is going to play. But, DeAndre Swift has been battling with a quad injury all this week. So he's now questionable. So, yeah. So, take that for what it's
worth. How much, if that's the case, how much will we see Roshan Johnson, who was battling a foot injury during training camp, and how many touches and carries will rookie Kyle Monaghan get will receive? Because if DeAndre Swift, if he's a no-go for Sunday or if he's limited, how many touches that will Kyle Monaghan get? How many touches will Roshan Johnson get? Ben Johnson got some problems on his hands as far as that running back room is concerned.
Plus, with the weather could be a factor as well in this game. Yeah. Yep, that's going to be interesting. Oh, my gosh. Now, Now, some sports media news, real quick, and we talked about this a little bit in our group chat, guys. And for those who guys don't know, Molly Karam, the longtime host for First Take, has she decided to. Well, the reports were prior the night before said that she was doing ESPN at not only First Take but ESPN at the end of the year. But the next morning, Stephen A. said that she's no longer with the network now. So what do you? We talked about a little bit on the group chat. Now we can expand on a little bit more for a couple minutes. What do you guys think, Sid? We'll start with you.
I know they're supposed to hold a tryout for the next month or so. And personally, I hope they give Shea Cornett, friend of the show, Chicago's very own friend of the program. Hopefully, they give her a shot. I know she's filled in a few times whenever Stephen A. and or Molly went on vacation. She held on her own. So we'll see how ESPN plays this, because I know it's Stephen A's show and Stephen A. Smith's show. And that's it, because if and when he quits that program, that show's going to go off the air. But for the time being, hopefully this process is a professional, thorough process. And me personally, I hope that Shea Cornett gets that spot. But we'll see how this goes. So at the ESPN, I think they'll be fine. As long as Stephen A. is there, I think they'll be fine. He just can't host the program, because remember, as we talked about LaKeena on Monday, when Skip Bayless and when they turned over the now ex Undisputed show to him hosting the show, that did not go over so well after Shannon Sharp left. So ESPN looks like they took a small page, a lesson page from Fox. Don't let Stephen A. host the show, even though that show is built around him. Christine, you're muted.
Maybe Christine.
There we go. I think Shea would be great at that position. I was surprised to see how somber Stephen A. was when his girlfriend, coworker, left the show.
Allegedly.
But she's been a part of that network for a long time, and if she feels like she needs to move on and do something different in her career, more power to her for doing that.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I know she said she kind of teased that she does have something lined up, so we'll see what she does talk about Molly Karam. Now, as far as Shea, I don't watch the show, you guys know that, but I have watched clips, and she when she did guest co-host, and she did hold her own, so I think she would be right there. I know Peter Schrager's name has been floated around. I think as another one of the favorites as well. So I know they want to have somebody in place before, now that we're into the football season. We'll see what happens, but I'm interested to see what happens here. But wishing Molly Karam nothing but the best. But I think that's gonna be the bigger question, is who's gonna replace her. So that's gonna be the thing here. Well, hopefully we might find out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'll throw one more name out there, and she's done it a couple of times too as a fill-in. Elle Duncan.
But I think, wouldn't that be a step down for her, though, from doing the the Sports Center? I know she does that a lot in the prime time mostly. Wouldn't that be kind of a step down for her, though?
I don't see it that way. That's just me personally, but maybe she'll view it that way. I don't know, but I don't see it personally. But it'll just add to her resume if she gets that spot. But I don't know how ESPN sees. I don't know how Elle Duncan would see it, but I'm just throwing her name out there as a candidate to fill in.
They do have her on there as a potential replacement. Talk about our guys out for announcing. So we just see what happens. Like I said, we should probably find out. Probably by this time next month. We'll see. Now the WNBA playoffs are in full swing, and Indiana and Las Vegas, they both won their matchups last night. So now they'll face each other at 2:00 on ESPN. Minnesota they're winning on the winner of the defending champion Liberty and the Mercury game. That game will be tonight on ESPN2. If you're so inclined, whoever wins that will face Minnesota on Sunday. So if you're so inclined, you got the WNBA playoffs to check out there. So there you go.
All right, one last question from me, Christine, before we have to close up shop. Notre Dame, surprisingly, they lost last Saturday night at home to Texas A&M. What happened? And do have them winning their first game tomorrow against in-state rival, I'm using air quotes, Purdue.
Let me tell you this. I got my heart broken twice in one weekend. First it was Notre Dame, and then it was the Bears. The Bears was a little bit of an easier letdown. Notre Dame was brutal. I mean, is there a chance that they can still go into the playoffs or whatnot? They have to win every game from here on out. Yes, it is possible in some extent. I think Purdue should be a good get right game for Notre Dame, just because, yes, they've been better in the past, but I still think Notre Dame has that strength behind them. The Carr looked way better, I thought, in my opinion, as quarterback, and he had a lot more, I would say, confident throws when he got out to his guys. The defense looked better, I thought, for the Irish too. And they're going to find their footing, and I think this is a good game to do that.
Yeah, the Fighting Irish are currently 25.5-point favorites at home. So if they don't win tomorrow, especially convincing fashion, you can forget about the college football playoff for 2025.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Real quick now, though, the White Sox are finishing up their home schedule against the Padres. Do you think they can avoid losing 100 games, Christine?
I still have hope. Something's got to give this year, right?
Yeah, something does have to give. Real quick before we close up shop, shout out to Beef Loaf, Chirizi, and My Sox Summer, the guys from Section 108. They received they had their bobbleheads given out to selected fans this past Tuesday. They were interviewed by Chuck Garfien and Ozzie again. They actually went into Section 108 to interview those guys. For those of you that had missed it, check it out. Check it out online. I know Chuck Garfien's Twitter X account has that interview up as well. So go check that out. For those of you in the Chicagoland area, tomorrow afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, in Lot B as in boy, at Sox Park, is Whiskey at Comiskey season finale. Chicago Sports Bums, Section 108. The food's gonna be catered by Lawrence's Shrimp. Get there early. The food's going to be gone before you know it. Yours surely is going to be there. Everybody else from White Sox Tour is going to be there before Game 2 of the San Diego White Sox series tomorrow night. Game time's at 6:10 p.m., but tailgating starts at 3:30 p.m. at Lot B. So be there or be square.
All right. Now, on that note, you can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Christine, where can the lovely people follow you on social media?
They can follow me on Twitter or X at CManika_KXRB.
All right. You can catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Get Second City Sports anytime, anywhere on whether it's noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, or also if you miss out, on our segments, you can catch it anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
We also want to thank FOX-4's Mike Doocy for joining us today. It was so much fun having him on. He's a legendary sports executive reporter. There you can catch the show he does, Sid.
It's free for all. It airs every Monday through Friday at 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also live on Sunday nights at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Just go to the FOX-4 Dallas website, and you can catch the show live in 11 color right there with him, Miss Sam Gannon, and Jeff Kolb as well.
All right. So enjoy all the sports, of course. You got baseball finishing up. You got, of course, football, both college and pro. You got the WNBA playoffs if you're so inclined. Soccer also if you're so inclined. So, enjoy. I know it's probably like the last, bit of hot weather for everybody until next year. So enjoy it. Be careful and be safe out there and be good to each other. For Sid and Christine, I'm LaKeena of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll see you guys next week.
Go Sox and God Bears. Holla!